Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Dribble, the show where we take a closer look into the Boston Celtics, the rest of the NBA, and whatever else might come up. My name is Luke Irwin, and I am your host. We have a great show today, because today marks the start of the Emirates NBA Cup. Yes, the Emirates NBA Cup, the in-season tournament that the NBA implemented last season for the first time, is starting today, Tuesday. And it's exciting, right? We got some new courts. Of course, like last year, there's a lot of complaints about how the courts looked. I think it went really well last year. I think that people were pretty satisfied with the product. Of course, the Los Angeles Lakers came away with the NBA Cup, hung a banner and everything for that. Last year, the inaugural NBA Cup. So this year, it's going to start again. I think some teams now kind of have an understanding of what to expect with the Cup, and maybe there will be some more motivation for that Cup. So we might see some increased competition in these games, or teams might treat it more bigger picture, regular season, trying to get to the ultimate goal, which is still an NBA championship. But nonetheless, the games start today. Tuesday, November 12th is when the NBA Cup games begin. And for those of you who do not know, the NBA Cup runs Tuesday and Fridays. So Tuesdays and Fridays will be NBA Cup games moving forward until about like early mid-December, when the full tournament is in Vegas to determine who wins the NBA Cup. So yeah, today's episode, we're just going to kind of detail the different groups, what we expect from these groups, who we expect to come out, and then of course our two wild cards, and then we're going to make a big, bold prediction and say who is going to win this year's NBA Cup. So yeah, just a quick outlook on what to look forward to for this NBA Cup and to get an idea of what the competition is going to look like for each team in each group. So yeah, so much to get into. And I suggest we do, because this is The Dribble.
The Celtics are NBA champions.
Okay, like I said, the NBA Cup starts today, Tuesday, November 12th. Super exciting. Going to be a great NBA Cup this year. Last year was the inaugural, and this year is the second year. And I think a lot of teams last year had said publicly that they didn't know what to expect, right? They didn't know what they were kind of jumping into, and now they do. So now I think we'll see some increased competition. Also, like we've said with Hope's Hotel, some of the talent has moved around in this NBA, and some of these teams that we thought were going to be great aren't going to be as good, and some teams that we thought were going to be bottom of the barrel have actually played a little bit better. So now these groups get a little more interesting. Before I dive into the groups, just a real quick breakdown on everything. So each group, or each conference rather, Eastern Conference and Western Conference, is broken into three separate groups. Now, these groups are not interdivisional, they're not anything like that. They're based off of your record and who you played last year. Now, one team from each of these groups, 6 total groups in the entire NBA, 3 per conference, one team will make it out of these groups. That is determined on your record in the play-in games on Tuesdays and Fridays, and your record against the other teams in that group. Now, if you have the same record as somebody in that group, it's all about point differential, right? So say two teams are both 3-1 in the NBA Cup games by the end of it. But one of those teams is plus 11 differential and the other team is plus 8 differential. The team that's plus 11 differential will make it on and will advance to the next round, the tournament round of the NBA Cup. So that's kind of how it breaks down. And then in each conference, one wild card is picked, and that's determined on, again, same criteria. That's determined on their overall record in the Cup, along with secondary, their point differential. So again, one extra wildcard team from the West, one extra wildcard team from the East will also make it into the tournament. And then those teams play until, obviously, the championship game for the NBA Cup. So without further ado, let's go into the teams and who I pick to come out of each group and why. We are going to start out East. So East Group A consists of the New York Knicks, the Orlando Magic, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this group, not a single team in this group is above 500 or even at 500. The total combined record of this group is 20-30. Now, the Knicks, obviously, we know they will probably turn things around. They are currently 4-5, their record. But new team, trying to gel, trying to find chemistry. I'm not too worried about them. The Magic lose Paulo. Again, long term, they're probably going to be okay. But in in an East where only 2 of the 15 Eastern Conference teams are above or at 500, that is a problem. So only 2 of 15 teams in the East are above 500 compared to the West, who has 9 of 15 teams are above 500. So the East currently is looking like the lesser conference for sure. And the 2 teams that are above 500 for the East have a combined record of 21-2, and that's the Celtics. The Cavaliers are 12-0, and the Celtics are 9-2. So it's either you are below 500 or you are exceptionally above 500 in the 800 plus range. So the East is very top heavy, to say the least. But let's talk about this group. My pick for this group is the New York Knicks. Kind of a boring pick, kind of an obvious pick. Look, the Magic, like I said, no Paolo. They've gone 2 for 5 in their last 7 games, including the game that Paolo was hurt in. So they don't look the same that we kind of thought they were right out the gate. Like I said, not too worried about them long term, but as it stands right now, they just don't have the firepower, and they're relying on too many young guys to kind of get this done. I think the Knicks have, who have, dropped a couple games here and there that maybe they should have won. They still are a highly efficient offensive team. The issue is Karl Anthony Towns has been one of the worst rim protectors, and the Knicks plus minus with him on and off the court defensively, their defensive plus minus, it just goes way down. It goes way down. With him off the court, they're like plus 18. With him on the court, they're like plus 4 or something like that. So they're still in the plus. However, their defense just goes down significantly. He kind of gets lost out on the perimeter, and then he has a hard time recovering to the paint. So, but offensively, like we thought, their team is incredible, right? Their team still has one of the higher offensive ratings in the league, but they're losing a lot of these games because they're unable to stop people on the defensive end. Luckily for them, the Magic, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Hornets, I don't think will pull out wins against them. And I think the Knicks will come out on top. Now, the Sixers are kind of a interesting team here because Embiid is going to be back. Embiid has served his 3-game suspension. He was scheduled to probably come back during that suspension, but he got those days off, of course. And now he is scheduled to come back for the Cup. What does this mean, right? No Tyrese Maxey. He's out for a few weeks. Paul George is kind of in and out of the lineup, but he's been steady in the lineup for the past couple of games. So now you have basically Embiid and Paul George running the show. Now, Embiid could come back. He hasn't played a minute in this season yet. So he could come back and he could go right to averaging 34 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of assists, and he could push them to victory. I wouldn't be surprised if Embiid came back, looked good because he's been having all of this rest, and he plays well and leads them out of Group A. But right now, just pure sample size of what we have so far, I have to take the Knicks in this group, in this very weak group, but I have to take the Knicks. The Hornets and the Nets, they're frisky. We've talked about them a bunch in Hope's Hotel. So they have some pieces that can probably get it done. They'll steal a win here and there, probably against the Knicks. My dark horse, though, in this group is the Hornets. I still like the Hornets. I like LaMelo Ball, his ability to score. He stayed a little bit more healthy. This team just seems, they're losing games that they should be losing, but they're winning some games that they also should be losing. So this team has kind of found their groove a little bit offensively. And again, they could shock people. That Hornets arena is really fun to play in. They could be having some really tight games where they come out on top. But for now, dark horse is the Hornets, but my pick is the Knicks to come out of Group A for the NBA Cup. Let's move on to Group B. So this group, again, we're in the East still. And like I said, only 2 of 15 teams in the East are above 500, and those 2 teams are the Celtics and Cavs, who have a combined record of 21-2. So you're either bad or really, really good in the East. So Group B for the East NBA Cup are the Bucks, the Pacers, the Heat, the Raptors, and the Pistons. They have a combined record of 17-34. 17-34, obviously being anchored by the 2-8 Bucks, who are second to last in the East behind the Pistons, who are also in this group at 2-9. So this is the worst group in the entire NBA circuit, the NBA Cup circuit. So I picked the Heat here. This is my pick, will be the Heat. And that's purely off of the fact that Indiana has a ton of injuries. Andrew Nembhard just got injured. Tyrese Halliburton has been kind of in and out. He hasn't looked the same regardless. The Bucks' incompetence, right? Even with Dame playing well and Giannis playing well, we can talk about the game that they just had against the Boston Celtics, where again, they seemed like they were in control for a little bit, but they just ran out of gas. They just ran out of steam. Down the stretch in these games, they take a 20-point lead, but then down the stretch, they just can't keep up. They lose. They look old. They look old. I'm talking about it and everybody else is. They just look old. So down the stretch in the fourth quarter, they lose it. Teams come back. We just saw the Celtics do that. So even with Giannis and Dame putting up 30 points a game almost, they're still losing games. They're still 2-8 now. The Raptors and the Pistons are the Raptors and the Pistons, right? I love Jaden Ivey on the Pistons. He looks like he could be a potential future star. I love Cade Cunningham. I love some of the pieces that they have, but they're still the Pistons, right? And I just think that when you get Jimmy Butler going in a highly competitive environment, and Bam will play better. He has not played well at all. He will play better, and he adds still the defensive anchor for that team. And Jovic, with the low scoring of Butler and Bam in these games, Jovic has shown some good signs here and there. So with this terrible group, I have to pick the Heat just because I think Jimmy Butler has to have something to prove. He's a competitive guy. He'll get up for these games, and I think that they will come out of this group. My dark horse is the Pistons. Like I said, dark horse pick for Group B in the East is the Pistons. It's because of Jaden Ivey. It's because of Cade Cunningham. It's because of Jalen Duren. I like their defensive effort game in and game out. Now that might go down as their record goes down. It's hard to play when you know that you have no chance. But in the East, like we said about 3 times in this episode already, the East is only 2 of the 15 teams are above 500. So the Pistons can be terrible, but if they have a few big games here and there, they could find themselves in the play-in, which is kind of wild to think about. Like I said, I just like some of the young pieces they have. So that's my dark horse are the Pistons, but my pick for the Group B NBA Cup in the East are the Miami Heat. It pains me to say. It pains me to say. You know I don't like the Heat, but it is the Miami Heat. Okay, on to Group C. This is the last group in the NBA Cup for the East. We have a little bit of a better team. Those 2 teams above 500 are in this group. We have the Celtics, the Cavaliers, the Bulls, the Hawks, the Wizards. Okay, and they have a combined record of 31-23. So the only group with a winning record. And heading into the season, people saw this group and they were like, this group is the worst East group. It turns out they're actually the best East group. You have the Celtics 9-2. You have the Cavs obviously undefeated. They win again on Monday. They have 12-0. And again, they're getting timely clutch plays. So they're not only just blowing these teams out and winning by a bunch, they're also getting timely clutch late play. They're getting good late game experience for all their younger players. And they're showing that in tight situations, they can pull out some W's. And then you have the Bulls, who have been surprising. They led the league in pace for a while. They've kind of come down back to earth a little bit. The Hawks, who have Trae Young, but they've been a huge disappointment. As somebody who lived in Atlanta for a long time, part of me wants to root for them, but they have been just a boring team to watch. They're not fun. And then you have the Wizards, who are the Wizards. Just Jordan Poole running around. He might drop 40 on you, and you might lose one of these games, but I highly doubt it. This is by far the best East group, like I said. My pick coming out of East Group C, you might think it would be my Boston Celtics, our Boston Celtics, your Boston Celtics. It's actually the Cleveland Cavaliers. Look, the Celtics have looked really good. They're 9-2 right now. They're one of the best teams in the league, but the Cavs are just in a different level of a groove. The Celtics have Tatum playing at an MVP level, but we're a little bit too 3 heavy, right? We're a little bit too reliant on the 3, and they're not all great. A lot of them are off the dribble 3. We were really getting some drive and kick 3s that are always open, and those are always great. We will take those every single time down the floor. However, we have guys like Pritchard, even D. White at times, definitely Jason Tatum, just taking pull-up 3s and settling because we've been getting in these holes, right? Past 2 games we've played against the Nets and the Bucks, 2 of the lowest teams in the East. We've started out those games 2-16, a combined 4-32 in those games, meaning the other team has been up 32-4 combined in the first quarter of those 2 games. So yeah, we came out in the beginning of the year strong from the first quarter, but the past couple of games we've just come out slow, right? We open up that Bucks game 2-16 at one point. We open up the Nets game 2-16 at one point. So we get down 4-32 accumulative in the first quarter in those 2, and we have to claw our way back. Now we win both of those games because Jason Tatum has a crazy second half in both of those games and saves us. But again, we're just not getting out to that groove. We don't look perfectly in sync. We don't look in great rhythm right now. We're playing well. We're winning because we're the most talented team in the NBA. But we're playing a lot of Jordan Walsh from the G League, right? Jordan Walsh is getting first quarter minutes in a lot of these games, right? We're playing a lot of Neemias Queta, who has looked incredible, by the way. He could be the next Robert Williams III. I know Robert Williams, he's the one and only. There will never be another Robert Williams, but Neemias Queta looks great. He's a freak athlete. He gets up there. He can grab rebounds above the rim. He can finish around the rim. He's made some great passes in rotation too, so he's shown a lot of promise. But again, why am I picking the Cavs for this Group C in the East? It's just they're in that groove. They're winning close clutch games. They seem confident. They're getting scoring from basically every single person on the floor. Here's the deal. Garland and Mitchell have been great, but they have been clutch also, and Mobley and Allen have both been clutch defensively, like I said, making huge plays down the stretch of these games. It also helps when you have 7 guys shooting above 40% from three. 5 people can be on the court at once. They have 7 players averaging over 40% from three. That's Ty Jerome, 57%, Jalen Tyson, 50%, Isaac Okoro, 48%, Darius Garland, 47.5%, Karis LeVert, 47%, Donovan Mitchell, 40.5%, Sam Merrill, 40%. Now, unless this team is going to be the greatest three-point shooting team of all time, those numbers are going to dip. We're going to see a regression to the mean with those numbers. But for now, and the NBA Cup starts today, they are the hottest team in the league. And with 7 players shooting over 40% from three, it's hard not to pick them coming out of this East Cup. Now, of course, I'm rooting for the Celtics, and I think the Celtics could and probably will. But if you were to ask me today, what team is in a better groove, who I see coming out of these games moving forward over the next month or so, if I'm a betting man, it's the Cavaliers. Shooting like that. 7 people shooting over 40%. That's incredible. Incredible. My dark horse in this, though, are the Bulls, right? Not the Celtics. That wouldn't be a dark horse. My dark horse are the Bulls coming out of this, okay? I think the Bulls, like I said, they play a little bit faster. They have Zach LaVine. Now, they just lost last night to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a close one. Again, clutch play by Cavs. But I think that the Bulls, they're dark horse for a reason. I think it's going to be the Celtics or the Cavs coming out. But the dark horse, I would say, would be the Bulls. So that is my East. I'll just recap real quick. Group A, I have the Knicks coming out. My dark horse in Group A is the Hornets. Group B, I have the Heat coming out of Group B. My dark horse for them would be the Pistons. Group C, I have the Cavs winning Group C, but my dark horse for that would be the Bulls. Now, the wild card coming out of the East. It's a tough one. I got to pick the Celtics. Even though they have a tougher group, and so it's going to be harder to get more wins, I just think with their point differential and what we can do any given night, especially when we lock in, which I think we will lock in for these games, I think that even though the Cavs take Group C, I think the Celtics get the wild card spot and get into the tournament. Okay, let's move on to the West, the Wild Wild West, the competitive West. West Group A. West Group A are the Wolves, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, the Kings, the Rockets, and the Blazers. Now, this group has a combined record of 27 and 26, so a little bit better. Like I said, this West team, or this West conference, has 9 of 15. 9 of 15 above 500. 9 of 15 compared to 2 of 15 above 500. But this Group A, Wolves, Clippers, Kings, Rockets, Blazers, I'm going to call them the group of 6 and 4, except for last night they changed to 6 and 5. So most of these teams are about 6 and 4, 6 and 5. 4 of the 5 teams ahead of Monday night's games were 6 and 4. Both of those teams lost. That would be the Clippers and the Kings. So now they're 6 and 5. But we have this group where they're above 500, but they've lost some crucial games. The Timberwolves are 6 and 4. We kind of expected a little bit more from them given the trade that they made. They haven't looked super cohesive. Randall hasn't totally found his footing. And then you have Anthony Edwards, who is now just settling for a lot more jump shots, settling for a lot more threes specifically, not the long twos that he was before. But he's shooting 46% from three. He's attempting 12 three-pointers a game, but he's shooting 46% from three, and that's why he's averaging 28 points in this season so far. Him and Tatum, kind of same thing. They've just upped their percentages. They both take about 12 three-pointers a game. Like I said, Tatum has upped his shot selection to 57% of them are threes. So, look, it's getting it done for now. But again, some regression to the mean most likely will happen unless Anthony Edwards is, again, one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. I mean, is he really going to keep up 46% while attempting or attempting 12 3-pointers a game. I don't think so because it's never happened, but who knows? It could happen. But yeah, the Timberwolves defensively haven't been themselves, but they still have the personnel. They would be 7-3 if Chris Finch were to just have put in Rudy Gobert on the final possession versus the Heat, where Jovic went up, got fouled by McDaniels on a layup attempt, which ended up losing them that game. If Rudy Gobert was in, I don't know why. Final possession, you leave Rudy Gobert out. Doesn't make sense to me. That didn't make sense to Rudy. Chris Finch had no real answer after the game. They would be 7-3. So let's pump the brakes on freaking out on that record. So for that, in West Group A, I am picking the Timberwolves to come out. My dark horse, well, I mean, look, all these teams are 6-4, or 6-5, so it's not the biggest dark horse in the world, but I like the Kings. I've liked them from the beginning of the year. A little bit of a rough start, like I said. Now they're 6-5 on the year, but DeMar looks good. They look fast. Their offense looks good. It's just that defense. They're not holding up on the defensive end. So if they can kind of hone in for these cup games, that is my dark horse. My dark horse for Group A in the West are the Sacramento Kings. Okay, moving on to the Group B. Now this is the most interesting group, in my opinion, in the entire NBA Cup. Group B are the OKC Thunder, the Phoenix Suns, the LA Lakers, the Utah Jazz, and the San Antonio Spurs. The combined record of West Group B is 30-21. Pretty good. My pick for this is the Thunder. I think that's pretty obvious. Now, this was going to be the most interesting group because the Suns were going to be my pick. But unfortunately, in case you did not hear, Kevin Durant out with a calf strain, which is the issue that he's been dealing with since that Golden State Warriors final against the Toronto Raptors. Look, this is a really unfortunate timing, and just he was on pace to be my MVP. I think Jason Tatum is now my front runner for MVP, him or Jokic. If the Nuggets can pull together more wins, it's Jokic easily. We will talk about them in a second. But man, the Suns and KD looked good. He had them playing right. Mike Budenholzer has them playing the right way. KD has been leading them, and he's just been playing at an MVP level, leading the league in clutch scoring before he got hurt. But out with a calf strain, of course, off of the ACL a while ago. It's never good when you have a calf injury after having any ACL issue, no matter how far back it was. So he's out for a few weeks. I think it's going to be longer than a few weeks to get him right. So without him, I have to pick the Thunder. You hate to see it, but it's just the way it is. Now, the Lakers could certainly get it done. AD has been also an MVP candidate, playing incredible. We thought that foot injury, the heel injury that he had, was going to sideline him for a long time. He's back already, and he looks great. LeBron James, we know what the LA Lakers did last year in the NBA Cup. They won the NBA Cup because LeBron James turned it on, and he can do that, and we know that. And Anthony Davis is playing at a high level, and JJ Redick has the role players in the right space and place to play well. This Lakers team can be dangerous on a game-by-game basis, and for that, they could take it. But I just think the Thunder, with their defense and the way they're playing, and they have the superstar in Shea, that's a recipe. That's a recipe for some wins. So I do still pick the Thunder. My dark horse in this West Group B are the Spurs. Why? Because of Wemby. Wemby had his most points in a game ever with 32 or 34, I believe, last night. So he's been kind of getting it going, even though he's come off of a pretty lackluster start to the season. Defensively, he's incredible. Defensively, he probably will still win Defensive Player of the Year, even though he hasn't been as incredible as we thought. But offensively, he's still finding his rhythm. He's still finding his groove. Him and Chris Paul, are finding themselves a little bit. It's going to take some time. Offensively, he wants to be Kevin Durant, but he needs to try to be Giannis. That's the problem. He thinks he can hang out on the perimeter. He's still so skilled at dribbling, so skilled at shooting, so skilled at shot creation out there, but he's shooting a low percentage now, and he's trying to force things on the perimeter. Get inside. You're taller than the rim. Just get inside. You're taller than the rim is. Just do that, and all you got to do is put the ball in the basket. Let's just do that. So more Giannis and less KD from Wemby, and I think that they could do it. So my dark horse here are the Spurs, but I am picking the Thunder. Okay, the final group is Group C in the West, and that is the Nuggets, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. They have a combined record in this group of 30-22, which, by the way, let's just backtrack just to give you an idea here. In the West, Group C, their overall record, 30-22. Group B, their overall record, 30-21. Group A, their overall record, 27-26. All three groups in the West have an above 500 combined record in their group. Now let's just check out the East real quick. I know we already did, but just to reiterate. Group A in the East, 20-30 record combined. Group B, combined record of 17-34. Terrible. Group C, combined record of 31-23. Obviously, that's the Celtics and the Cavs having those super high records, but you have two groups with a combined record of 20-30 and 17-34. So to give perspective, that's 37-64 between those two groups. And every group in the West is above 500. That just gives you an idea for a zoomed out general look at the landscape of the entire NBA. The West is the best and the East is the least. So unfortunately, that's how it's shaping out. Fortunately for the Celtics, but and fortunate for a lot of these middling teams in the East, even like the Sixers, who are kind of struggling for a win because Embiid said he's not going to play basketball when he doesn't feel like it, and then he pushes reporters and gets suspended. They still have a chance to actually get relatively good seeding because of all of the terrible teams in the East. But neither here nor there. Moving on to Group C in the West. Like I said, Nuggets, Mavs, Pelicans, Warriors, and Grizzlies. My pick here is the Nuggets. Okay? And just to start out, it's the Nuggets. There are some great teams. It's the Nuggets because of Nikola Jokic. That's what it is. This year, Nikola Jokic is averaging 30, 14, and 12 on the season. Now, that's a 30-point triple-double, which is incredible on its own, but it's not 30 and like 10 and 10 or 30, 10, and 11. 30, 14, and 12 on the season. And in the last 5 games, Nikola Jokic is averaging 29, 16, and 13. 29 points, 16 rebounds, 13 assists on 68% true shooting. That is incredible. That is, especially given the modern talent around the NBA, and he's in the West, that is the best we've ever seen anybody play basketball, essentially. So incredible. And also they're getting good contributions from Russell Westbrook on the team, even though we will see that dip back down. We know the roller coaster that is Westbrook, but he's been having a couple good games. But Nikola Jokic has just been dragging this Nuggets team to wins that they have no business winning, given the talent that they have outside of Jokic and the three-point shooting deficiencies that they have. But he's just been dragging them to victories. They beat the OKC Thunder, the best team in the league, arguably, because Jokic had another incredible game, monster game. Shout out to me, real quick, drafting Jokic first. No-brainer, kind of, but he's been winning me basically every single night in my fantasy. So thank you, Jokic. Now, looking at the other teams, we have the Mavericks. Now, Luka Doncic is incredible, but the Mavericks are 5-5, and Luka's numbers are down across the board. Last year, Luka Doncic averaged 34 points per game. This year, he is at 28. So he went from 34 to 28. Rebounds. Luka Doncic last year was at about 9 rebounds a game. He's at about 7.5 rebounds a game. He also last year was at about 10 assists a game. This year, he's at about 8-9 assists. So every single statistical category has gone down. His shooting percentage has gone down. His true shooting has gone down. His effective field goal shooting has gone down. His free throws per game have gone down. And you know what has not gone down is his inability to understand that it's a physical game and you're going to get fouled without calls being made. Okay? He is spending all of his time talking to refs. That has not been shaken from him. And I think that was a huge reason that the Mavs got gentlemen swept in last year's finals, is because he just was too focused on the refs and not focused on basketball. And it only gets more physical as you get deeper into the playoffs, and he has to learn that. So for that, can't take the Mavs, although I do like what Klay's been giving, and Kyrie is still cooking. And so far, no missing Kyrie reports or anything outside of basketball hurting Kyrie and the Mavs. So for that, 5-5, I just think that the Nuggets are just the more prolific team. The other team that I would choose would be the Warriors, but Like we talked about the Warriors last episode, right? They're doing this by committee. They have 9 guys who have started games. They have 13 guys averaging over 10 points per game. Buddy Hield has come in and just looks incredible, playing really well in second half, shooting the ball lights out. Steph Curry is back looking great, and Draymond Green is still looking like that center cog in the team. But again, just because of Jokic, I got to go Nuggets in this group. The Grizzlies are now without Ja. Again, and I've been loving the Grizzlies team with Ja. They look so good, but now they are without him again. Terrible to see. He is out with an injury, so nothing off the court. This is an injury-related absence, and he will be out for probably about a month. We'll see what happens, but it's a hip injury. It's a hip issue that he had. He went flying through the air to catch an alley-oop against the Lakers in that game last week, and he was contorting his body and got up there and just landed really weird, and you can kind of tell when it happened. It looked like a freak accident, and he got up and he played, but after they evaluated him, and he has a bad hip injury that looks like it's a hip flexor, but then there's also multiple injuries in the area, so we will see how long he's out. But here's the deal, and we have enough evidence looking through all of sports history, whether it's football or basketball. Players like this don't typically last very long in their sport, because if you're going to be a quick twitch kind of player, fast movements, quick change of directions, it puts a lot of stress on your ligaments and your muscles. And not only that, the quick twitch element of it, like Derrick Rose is a great example of that, but also the kind of things that Ja does that makes him amazing, why we love him. He had a game last week where he had 2 mid-air 360 layups. We don't see that ever, let alone twice in a game. But he has this ability to get up into the air as high as anybody in the NBA can jump, contort his body, spin between 2 7-footers, lean his body enough in the right way to get the marginal contact he needs to maybe draw a foul, but still have the control to put the ball up, all while trying to throw the defense off with the timing, and all while he's 10 feet in the air. And what is below him? A bunch of feet, ankles for you to roll your ankle on, and a hardwood floor to land on. Not the safest place to do these acrobatic flying through the air. Now, they're entertaining. They put pressure on the defense. He's an amazing player. He's incredible at finishing around the rim. Nobody's arguing that. But it comes with a risk, and this is the risk. Also, more injuries. Zion is out with another hamstring injury. This group is just, pun intended, hamstringed with injuries. Zion out last year with a hamstring injury. He was out the majority of 2 years ago with 2 hamstrings, one on each side, one on each leg. So this has been an issue, which with a hamstring like this, and we know that he's been flagged for maybe not being the biggest prepper before seasons and stuff, as far as like weight loss and weight gain and everything like that. So this could be a reoccurring thing. You hate to see it, but we have enough evidence that when a big man like this gets an injury that's reoccurring, like hamstring, you put a lot of stress on that hamstring, you really hate to see it. And they're already out with DeJounte Murray with the hand injury too. So the Pelicans have just been riddled with injuries, and for that, they haven't looked great this year, 3-8 in the West. So not the best. My dark horse for this, because if we look at this, you have the Grizzlies without Ja, not happening. Warriors wouldn't be a dark horse. They're 8-2. Pelicans, again, without Zion and DeJounte, who is scoring that ball? Brandon Ingram? Poor man's Jason Tatum? No, I don't think so. So my dark horse are the Mavs, and they can be a dark horse because they're 5-5. Okay, your 5-5 allows you to be eligible for the dark horse. So that's it. Reading through those, my picks for the West are in Group A. I picked the Timberwolves. In Group B, in Group A, I picked the Timberwolves. My dark horse are the Kings. In Group B, my pick is the Thunder. The dark horse are the Spurs. And in Group C, I pick the Nuggets. My dark horse are the Mavericks. Now, for the Western Conference wild card, my pick for this, again, given the injuries, Suns, no KD. Pelicans, no Zion. Grizzlies, no Ja. I'm going to go with the Warriors. I think the Warriors will be the wild card coming out of Group C in the West. So those are my picks. those are the picks, and that's the landscape that I see. I'll go through all of them. I pick coming out of the East, the Knicks, the Heat, and the Cavs, with the wild card being the Celtics. My pick out of the West are the Timberwolves, the Thunder, and the Nuggets, with my wild card being the Warriors. So that's the setup. It all starts tonight, Tuesday night. The NBA Cup is back. Will it be better? Higher competition? We shall see. We are looking forward to that starting tonight. Like I said, Tuesdays and Fridays are what to look out for these games. Okay, so now let's just look ahead to some of the games that we're going to be seeing over the next week or so. Some things to look out for. Starting tonight, like I said, is when it all kicks off. It kicks off with our Boston Celtics against the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks at the Celtics tonight at 7 o'clock. And then we also have the Miami Heat at Detroit Pistons. We have the Charlotte Hornets at the Orlando Magic. We have the New York Knicks at the Philadelphia 76ers. That is the game to look out for. Joel Embiid is eligible to be back in that game. Knicks, of course, sent Joel Embiid packing in the first round, maybe the most entertaining round of the playoffs last year. Joel Embiid back. A lot of chatter about who he is, about how tough he is, about if he wants to play, pushing reporters, having all these issues, being suspended. He's going to be back with a vengeance. It's in Philadelphia, so the fans are going to be nuts. That is a huge game to look out for. If you're not a Celtics fan and you're not watching that Celtics-Hawks, go to TNT tonight at 7:30 to watch the New York Knicks at Philadelphia 76ers. That will be entertainment. Mecca of basketball. Then also we have the Toronto Raptors at the Milwaukee Bucks. We have the Phoenix Suns at the Utah Jazz. We have the Dallas Mavericks at the Golden State Warriors. And we have the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Portland Trailblazers. That should be an easy win. That is tonight's kickoff for those games. And then Friday is the next slate of games. The Heat at Pacers on Friday. The Sixers at Magic. The Pistons at the Raptors. The Wizards at the Hawks. The Bulls at the Cavaliers. The Nets at the Knicks, and there's more. And the Lakers at the Spurs, the Clippers at the Rockets, Nuggets at the Pelicans, Suns at Thunder, Grizzlies at Warriors, and Timberwolves at Kings. So those are the NBA Cup games this week. Going to be really interesting. I'm really interested, obviously, to see the level of competition. Like I said, are they going to revamp the competition to now that the players know what to expect? Are they going to be bringing a higher level of competition? Are maybe some of the lower level teams going to be bringing a higher level of competition to kind of get their season right? And maybe the higher ones like the Celtics and the Thunder and the Cavs, are they going to maybe be, no, we're playing for the bigger cup. We're playing for the NBA championship. We'll play hard like any other game, but we're playing for the big picture, not for the cup. It's exciting to see. Also, the new courts. There's a new look court. Every court has a little bit of a different look. Last year, that was my biggest complaint. That was everybody's biggest complaint. The courts looked awful. They were giving me a headache. They were giving everybody a headache. They looked terrible. I'm excited to see the new look courts on TV. And not only the look of them, like how do they look from a fan's perspective, but also there were issues last year with the courts being slippery and some players having some issues injury-wise there. So I'm also looking forward to see functionally how the courts work. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. NBA Emirates NBA Cup. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see it. And like, I don't know if you know this, but the games played in the NBA Cup tournament, they still count towards your regular season record until you get into the final tournament where those games are kind of separate. And they just count as extra games just towards the cup, not towards your actual record. But these games, the games tonight, Friday, next Tuesday, next Friday, those will all be counted towards your team's overall record. Okay, so that's been an overview of the Emirates NBA Cup. Super excited for that to start, to see how everything looks, how everything feels. Will it have that playoff atmosphere? And then next week, we will talk about all of it. And we are also later this week going to be doing another film session breakdown heading forward for the Celtics. So look forward to that. Yeah, I think that we covered everything. And I hope you enjoyed, because this is the Dribble.
Batter number 18 has Celtics are NBA